Alex take a big step towards safety. Ooh. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Riverside podcast, episode 54. I should probably check it. My name is Gay. It's 53. It is 54. My name is Alston, and I will be your host. As always, hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's had a good weekend, had a good Sunday, a nice roast dinner. Recovering from the pub last night. Bit celebratory after the win against Birmingham City. Seen some sort of Birmingham stuff online that's made me chuckle a little bit. Everything from size of our stadium being too big for us to some nonsense about about the manager and how we play scrappy football. They're 4 points ahead of us, by the way, and they spent about 35 net million more than we have over the last two seasons. So they're averaging about 10 million a point. Money well spent, if you ask me. Moving on beyond that. I spent the first sort of 10, 15 minutes as always sort of going through my thoughts on the game. I'll bring in a couple of comments after that, and then I've got a couple of a couple of opinions, I think, probably for the end of the show. Um, that may make some people unhappy, but I preface all these things by saying that obviously everybody's entitled to an opinion. We'll talk a little bit about Middlesbrough have just finished demolishing QPR at Loftus Road this evening as we face a trip to the Riverside on Wednesday night. And spoiler alert, I think that we're likely to get absolutely nothing. Right. Let's sort of talk about the wider context now that we've won the game, and then we'll go through the game more specifically. It's a big help. Obviously now 9 points clear. Bit irritating Leicester didn't have that penalty conceded against Ipswich where the ref was seemingly taken away by police. We have no police escort. I think it was a pretty blatant penalty that Ipswich should have had. But Leicester continue, nevertheless, Leicester continue their good record at Portman Road. They pick up a point. Sheffield, West Bromwich Albion pick up a point at Bramall Lane. Pompey and Blackburn drew 1-0. Thank God for Blackburn getting 93rd minute. Equaliser at Ewood Park, and then Oxford beat Preston. So look, everybody below us had a positive result. It was quite sort of nerve-wracking and sort of at the 60th minute when that was kind of what it looked like was those results were going to hold. We're going to sort of stay 7 points clear. And against the Birmingham side that offered very, very little, especially going forward, it was very, very frustrating. The atmosphere yesterday in the Valley felt a little bit weird. It felt very much on a knife edge. That a goal either way, I think, would have sent it into completely different options. When Osman sort of cut in mid sort of second half there, my heart was in my mouth a little bit. But it needn't have been. Goalkeeper could have read newspaper for most of the game. We'll come on to him later in my sort of dodgy opinion section. But we were comfortable for most of that game, to be honest. Birmingham played a couple of nice things, but that lack of bite in midfield, I think, really cost them. I thought Coventry and Doherty again were very good against Birmingham. Thought the entire back three was excellent. Thought Lloyd Jones that's the best game I've seen from Lloyd Jones in a Charlton shirt in a very long time. That was truly impressive. They should have had a red card as well for a pretty awful elbow thrown by their strikers. Name I can't remember off the top of my head. That's one they signed from Sweden for £6 million. Nico Vicente, who I know pretty well from his time with Deputy for Alaves, was a player that I think ultimately would be a good signing for Birmingham, but he's 5'7". Like, it's going to take him some time to adjust, and he just didn't look up for it really at all. So Mario Grau on the other side really worried about him. I thought he was absolutely dreadful. But it left us in this sort of spot about midway through that second half, thinking, it's 2 really big points dropped. Worried about scoring goals. It was getting a little bit stressful. I was sat. And then Charlie Callum came on, and I was a bit surprised Callum came on before Leeburn, considering last week I was pretty critical of him last week. And it's one of those things as a fan where you really want a player to sort of shut you up. He sort of shut me up yesterday. I thought he was very good when he came on. The finish, it was a weird sort of finish in the fact it looked exactly the same as the goal we scored against them last time to beat them 1-0. And I think in that game they had no shots on target. I think they had one yesterday, sort of right into Mannion's midriff from the free kick. But Nathan Jones did a job on Chris Davies again. Just put 11 men really behind the ball, used the front two to press high. I don't think Lyndon Dykes will get much credit for the job that he did yesterday. And Birmingham just couldn't break us down. There was just absolutely nothing. I don't know if Tommy Doyle was suspended or injured, but I think they missed someone like that, a bit more dynamism in their midfield. But they just lacked much sort of going forward. I know that we did a job on them defensively. That back sort of five and back six, if we include Coventry, is very good at doing that against teams that play the way that Birmingham do. But the lack of movement was really surprising. And the sort of, at the end of the game when they were seeing their managers sideways and backwards everywhere we go, it looked like that, right? A team like that, unless you have, and I said this in the preview, unless you've got far better players, it's really difficult to play that style away from home. When you're at home and the crowd's pushing you on and all the rest of it, teams sort of lose focus. But away from home, when you're the one that's sort of under pressure, from the crowd, you have to be, I think, where Middlesbrough are really with the players that they have. I mean, even then, I question that front line that Middlesbrough have. But, you have to have a midfield like that to be able to play the way that Birmingham want to play. And I just don't think that they have necessarily the players to do it, which is weird for a team that spent 30-odd million. I'm not massively sure Allsop shouldn't be doing a better job of cleaning out the box either on the goal. For the second time we played him, he's been a little bit reached to the spot. It's a lovely finishing Callum. It's a lovely little turn. It is genuine. It's the Matty Godden goal, the same goal. Opposite ends of the pitch, but the same goal. He's definitely learned from Matty, judging by that evidence. But it's a lovely little toe poke into the bottom corner, keeping no chance. Dreadful defending from the Blues. But hey, lads, they get a couple of extra thousand in a week, so that should probably make them feel better about themselves. Right, I'm gonna stop with the slightly passive aggressive Birmingham comments now. But no, I thought it was a composed performance. We had a couple of chances. Harry Clark and getting a chance in the box. One touch too many, too heavy a touch. Just hit it. That was annoying. Tyrese Campbell very unlucky. The ball sort of bounced on him second half. He's going through. Ball bounces on him. He's not even taking a bad touch. It's just a weird bounce. If it doesn't bounce, he's clear on goal as it was. It sort of slowed him down and allowed Clara to catch up and make what's one of the best tackles of the season, really, considering the pace difference between the two of them. If he gets that wrong, he's probably heading for an early shower. So another poor refereeing performance from Sam Allison in many ways. Same guy we had at West Brom, I thought was dreadful that night. I think it was much better to yesterday, but thankfully it didn't really matter. Didn't give us a pretty blatant free kick at the end of the game when Harry Clark was going through. Lebo missed one as well, which you'd hope he'd do better with. But look, end of the day, it's a big win. It takes us 9 points through. Look, you're looking at win at Hillsborough, get a couple of draws, and you're there now. And that's what we were looking for. You think you could tell from Nathan Jones's press conference afterwards, there was sort of a relief and a pride in that. I think that's a manager that thinks that he's almost done the job, right? The job's almost done. I think it's unlikely with the fixture we've got coming up that we don't do it. Bristol City play a similar sort of style, and they're going to be on the beach. You've got Preston coming down, who are in dreadful form. Norwich will be on the beach. So you're looking at a number of these clubs that you're going to play now. One of them, you'll get them on a bad hop. You would have thought. I think 2 wins and a draw, and you're definitely there. Really important that you win at Hillsborough. But as long as you do that, if you can get a point at Middlesbrough tomorrow, Wednesday, and try and sort of really grind one out, that could be really important. But even if we lose at Middlesbrough, I think as long as you don't go to Oxford and don't lose that game, you should be okay. But you probably can lose both of them and still be probably seven or 8 away from safety. I'm just not sure the West Brom or the Leicester wins coming from. To be honest, both are winless in 11. Looking pretty moribund. I mean, Portsmouth keep giving up goals in the 90th minute. Blackburn is scrappy, but is the quality there? I'm not sure. I think Michael O'Neill's done a really good job actually to kind of get them out of it. I think they're going to be okay. I think it's probably between West Brom, Oxford, and Leicester for those 3 relegation spots at this point. I think it would take a pretty disastrous next sort of 4 or 5 weeks for us to be dragged back in there, which I think is important. I felt a big sense of relief from the goal winning. I felt an even bigger sense of relief from the referee blew his whistle. 5 minutes of injury time, which I thought was probably pretty generous to us, to be honest. But they created nothing. I think even the referee just thought, let's go home. They weren't going to score. I think we played for another 4 hours. Really, really poor from Birmingham. And I'm not entirely sure whether that's, I should give us the credit of Nathan's sort of, the great managerial performance and an excellent defensive shift from all 3 centre backs. Coventry was excellent. Doherty was good. What can you say? There was a funny moment actually. First half, someone behind me was shouting at Tyrese Campbell to run. He's hugging the touchline to create width. Lee Chambers is cut inside. I just thought, oh god. You do need to create width in a 5-back, people. you can't be judged with not running. The stats literally show he's covered the most distance of any player we have. But anyway, look, we looked relatively comfortable in that game. Did we learn a heck of a lot? No. That looked like sort of one of the games you grind out under Nathan Jones. That's what he does. I'd expect a pretty similar setup when we go up to Boro on Wednesday. That midfield 3 looked ridiculously good this evening. If I had a chance to watch that game at Loftus Road, but I think we can all take a big sort of big breath. Big breath. It's all going to be okay, I think. I'm smiling. I'm happy. I feel like we're in a pretty good place now. I think the relegation fears are probably easing. But yeah, we can start hopefully soon to look forward to the summer window and hopefully some more investment and taking that next step to sort of stabilise as we gain back we get to take Nathan back to Cardiff and we gain another trip to Lincoln, which is we never play well. But it's nice to be able to sort of think in my head that we can start to look forward to next season. As I say, I think we're almost there. We're almost there. And sort of job done by everyone at the club and everyone involved. And I think that's a credit to the way in which we're being run, which I think is reasonably well under our American billionaire overlords. Right, let's have a chat with some of the people in the comments and say hello. I hope people like the new format where I do that. It just means I don't end up just talking to comments with people that are listening. I can actually get my thoughts out in a more sort of concise way. If that irritates people, let me know and go back to the old system. Hello to Robert. I had to listen to radio update to the games. I've just had eye surgery. I hope you're doing well, my man. I hope you're doing well. I was really cheered up when Callum put the ball in the net, as we all were. I think. Sam saying even Callum master 3 points. It was a huge game, huge result. It's one of those by hook or by crook. Comes off someone's backside. Really doesn't matter. Just win the game, right? And we won the game ugly. But we won it ugly but comfortably. Sam saying I hope that Sir Robert's surgery went well, and he's saying it is. Robert saying yes, it did. That's good to hear, Robert. And saying really tough one at Boro on Wednesday. It is. It's a real struggle to get anything at the Riverside, if I'm being totally honest with everybody. It's a big test, but now we're 9 clear the bottom 3. Do you think it's a free hit? I think it's probably a free hit as well, actually, Sam. I know Nathan Jones would hate that, but I think it's a pretty free hit. It's go up there and don't get battered. Keep your goal difference about where it is, because that's basically an extra point. We don't get battered very often, so that's what you're just trying to do here. I think is keep the goal difference respectable. See if you can grind a point out. If you lose at 1-0, no great shakes. Seeing their goals at QPR slightly worrying. Yeah, that midfield 3 is. I mean, Hayden Hackney, I said to Paul from the Chronicles, I was texting him earlier, and I said, Hackney and Grimes are by far the 2 best midfielders in the Championship, and nothing I've seen this season to make me change my mind. I think it was on the Sky broadcast today. They were saying Hackney will be playing in the Premier League, whatever happens next year, and he will be. No doubt about that. Sure, a really massive 3-pointer. Saw a post saying we won our last 5 winning home games, all 1-0. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's because we can't finish. But we're defending well. We are defending well. And I think that's such an important thing. I think even when we're making changes now, we're still defending relatively well. And I think that's. I said this when we left the January window. What they were trying to do was really sort of fill those gaps, and I think they did that in the short term. It's just over this sort of, medium to longer term now. How do we sort of get that fixed? And that's going to be sort of the question that they have to answer in the summer months. Winning a couple of draws from 10 games should do us now. Yeah, I'd like 2 wins and 2 draws. If I can get 8 points and get to 52, I think we're going to be absolutely fine. I think we're going to go higher than that. I think we'll probably finish about 55, I would have thought, which I think would be a very, very good return in the Championship. I wonder if Cody might start a Boro. That's a good question, Robert, actually. I don't know. You want him in there, I think, for the leadership because you can see those Middlesbrough 3, they're constantly changing position. No one's really a 6, no one's really an 8, no one's really a 10. They're constantly moving, and so having someone like Cody can sort of shout out, "Hey, Hackney's on your back. You need to watch out," or "This player's going," or "Green's going here," or "McGee's going here," or whatever it is. I think that's absolutely invaluable. My worry is the legs. Can he catch up? And that's going to be, I guess, the question Nathan Jones will have to answer. Just having Doc in there, I don't think compensates if you've got 3 midfielders completely overrunning you the way that Middlesbrough can. I think it's a very specific. It's a very specific challenge. Just saying, can we rest Nathan Jones with suspension games to be spent, or maybe play him and have him after 5 minutes? It's another game, isn't it? Resets after 37. Somebody can correct me in the comments. I think it's 37. The issue with that, Stuart, is we don't really have anyone to play. We've got 2 injuries at centre back again. So, look, if Burke was fit, I would say, yeah, you probably could. You just have to trust him not to get himself a yellow card. I thought it was okay. I think he was a lot less aggressive yesterday while still being Lloyd Jones, and I think he's probably need to do that for one more game. It'd be really rough not to have him at the gas hand now. We had to prove Macca in. Again, I'm not entirely sure how we'd actually do that, Nathan. But yeah, it's a question. I think he's just going to trust the player, and I think you probably should. Charlie, a free hit game against Boro on Wednesday was staying at pounding points from 53, 54. Yeah, I think about 50, somewhere between 53 and 55. I would have thought. I think 11 points is absolutely gettable from these 10. If you look at the games we're playing, we'll see. Last couple of games, maybe we'll sort of put our feet up after Hillsborough. I don't know. I don't think Nathan doesn't want that to happen. But you sort of take the Ipswich game out of it, maybe, and then potentially the Hull one, depending on how they're doing at that time. And there's points in pretty much all of them other than Boro. So you're looking probably at 7 of them. There's points. Can you get 11 from that? I think probably you can. It's not going to bother Bristol City. I think whether they win or lose, I don't think it's going to bother Preston North End whether they win or lose. A long way to go. Are they going to be up for it? I'd be pretty surprised if I'm honest. As much as I actually like Heckingbottom as a manager. Paul, evening Callum will a free hit on a Wednesday night. Yeah, it's a free hit. It's absolutely a free hit. The players can't think that. The players have to think it's not. Nathan Jones who's asked, "Are you close to safe?" He's like, "No, we're nowhere near close." And he's like, "We need to get to a mathematical number." It's like, well, the mathematical number is 50. So we're almost there. And as I say, unless something disastrous happens and we lose at both Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday, and then we don't pick up points at the games in between, do I see that happening? No, not particularly. I think we're going to be absolutely fine. You can actually draw 5 games, and you get to the same point that Stuart was talking about as well. So even if you can't win them, just can we grind out the points? I think we probably can. Yeah, if we can't find 6 or 7 points from the other 9 games, we don't deserve to stay up. Exactly, right? Because 3 of them should be at Hillsborough. So, and also you got teams that are hot and cold, right? Oxford. That was Oxford's first consecutive back-to-back wins all season, right? The likes of them maintaining that all the way through, I think, is probably relatively low. They've got a home game against Blackburn, which is really interesting. But in reality, it doesn't really matter who wins that game because either way, then it helps us. So I think we're in a pretty strong position. Tommy's saying evening, all great result and nice to get that goal. It was a big sort of relief. I don't know if anybody else felt that. And then to follow up with that absolutely hilarious Tottenham away, Charlton, which I almost did in the intro, but decided to save my dignity for. But that was quite funny. Fair play to whoever started that in the crowd. I said on the train that Callum is a waste of time and scores a decent goal, so made me look silly. Oh yeah, that's not shut me up. Yeah, I mean we're football fans, right? We'll talk about something controversial in a minute. I'm sure I'm going to be made to look like an idiot over the course of a period. If you have an opinion, like we all have a right to one. Sometimes you hear someone say something, you just think that's just not objectively true. That guy sort of saying about Tyrese to run, and he's like, really? It's just not how it works. But we all have opinions. We all have sort of beliefs, and oftentimes we want those to be proven wrong, right? Because oftentimes the negative opinions are the ones that sort of sort of come to the top of the mind when talking about football. I got the present of Sheffield. It's a voucher. Don't call it a present, Charlie. I call it a voucher. You still have to cash a voucher. If we beat Oxford to get a point, then we're basically there. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you're looking if you can get, and I think Sam texted, if you can get 5 points from this week, you are basically there. That would get you to 49. That's what Luton went down on goal difference last year. I don't think you're going to need that this year. As I say, I think as long as you're out of the mid 40s, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. On the short spell, the second half, they were quite poor. That was at least partly down to our approach. I mean, we gave them the ball, right? I mean, we said this before. We said this in the previews. You give them the ball. Why not? They're not going to break you down. They didn't break us down. You live with it, right? There wasn't really a killer pass they played. There wasn't any movement up front. I thought Tomorrow Graz was absolutely god awful. Got the ball, played it backwards. Got the ball, played it backwards. Got the ball, played it backwards. Got the ball, played it sideways. Nothing. Absolutely nothing from a player that's probably on, triple. Maybe on 60. Must be on what 50,000 a week. It was coming from Saudi Arabia. I thought it was absolutely dreadful. So that means to beat Oxford, then I feel I can enjoy the last few. Yeah, I mean, again, you're looking at, you're probably looking for another 5. If you can get 6 and get to 50, you'd be okay. At that point, the math is the mathing. On what a win, I'm buzzing. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty happy. I had a roast dinner earlier. That helped me out a little bit. Yeah, then we can now enjoy the games coming up and breathe. Yeah, I mean, again, as I say, I think you probably want another 7 or 8, and then then we can all sort of you can all sort of breathe. I think it's a bit annoying actually. The women's game that hopefully will be the trophy lift is on the same day as Swansea now, which is a bit irritating. I don't know why they've done it that way around. Maybe someone who knows the domestic calendar can start, along with West Ham and Spurs away too. I don't know. I mean, it'd be one of them. I would have thought. I think Wolves and Burnley are pretty nailed on. I have a horrible thing it may be Forest actually, which would suck because both. It's not Forest a bad club. They're not. It's a, historic ground and all the rest of it. But West Ham's like the closest away day ever for me, and Spurs would just be very, very funny. A good summer of buying and selling would be good. The owners aren't daft mid-table with the aim things. Exactly that. I think they're sort of, even if you read Gavin Carter's letter on the season ticket thing, they sort of insinuated they realised that there's going to be serious investment. Everything I've been told is that there will be serious investment in the summer. I don't think they're too worried about it. In terms of spending some cash, but you've just got to get the revenues up, and that allows you to spend. But having an extra year of championship football, right? It does open up that spending calculation because you get more money for being in the championship than you do for getting promoted to it, even though you get a bonus when you get promoted. Spurs away would be great. It'd be absolutely hilarious, Stuart. Just one of the funniest away days imaginable. You get my cup filled up from the bottom. That'd be exciting. I have to be honest, I rip into Hendo for his lateness. When squad turns up before him, but he does a great job keeping 13 or 14. I don't know what you were talking about here. For Hendo, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know who Hendo is. Sorry, Sam. Resets after 37. Yeah, exactly that. So for Jones, it's just get through one more game. Rather rest him for Boro, don't lose him for Oxford and Norwich. Yeah, I mean that is the calculation. We'll see what Nathan does. Last time with Coventry, I think he had about 8 games or something. We didn't have a central defensive midfield backup last season. He played him through him. So I'd expect we would play it. Macca at the back. Boro don't play with the big strikers, so might work. Need low James Rocks, etc. The only thing is that they've got fast forwards. They're not big, but they're fast, and that's the worry, right? Is it if you lose? Is it is that the they can sort of play it around you? I think you need someone who wants to keep up with the pace of the ball, if that makes sense. And I'm not sure Macca is kind of like that. The women at the Valley on Wednesday night too, mind blowing. So is that? Why not just put them on the Tuesday? If that was a Tuesday, I would have gone. It's really, really silly. These decisions, just really, really silly. Trying to grow a game. There are people, I'm more than willing to, I like going to women's games. I'd love to have gone, but they've got to make it reasonable, right? They've got to make it so you can actually do it. They forgot Gross until he was subbed. He was dreadful. He was absolutely dreadful. He did. So Henderson is what he's saying. Stephen Henderson, the goalkeeping coach, right? I do represent him for his lateness when the squad turned up before him, but he does a great job, especially keeping 13 or 14 clean sheets. This is a good transition. There's only 7 people in here. I'm sure I'll hear more from people later. Oh God, there's 10 now. God. For those of you that are just logging, you're about to log in the most controversial point of this podcast. So great. I want to say this in the right way because this is not a criticism in any way, shape, or form of Will or Thomas or anybody else, right? I have some issues with some of the confirmation bias that I'm seeing about the goalkeeping thing. I logged onto Charlton Life and Paul has seen it. I texted him. I read some of this stuff and I just I don't like when things become hypocritical, right? I thought Will Mannion was fine yesterday. Right, absolutely fine. And I let my feelings be known after Wrexham, but I thought he was fine, right? On Saturday, genuinely, there was one claim he made in the second half. It was a really really good claim. There was one in the first half which was decent enough, but any keeper should come from. There was a third one that again any keeper would come from. It wasn't outside of a 6 yard box. He would have come right. He did not have a save to make. Not have a save to make yesterday. And even from places where I really respect the people's opinions, some of whom I pay to read their opinions, partially. I thought some of the stuff I heard was absolutely bananas. Right, that game proves that Will needs to be given the rest of the season. That Will is this, Will is. I was like, no, no. What this is for a lot of people is at the beginning of the season they were annoyed that we made a change because they liked him. Right, they thought he had a good playoff final. That was great. That playoff final, he worked for that. Right, but yesterday was a game that suited him, right? Because it was balls in the box, it was balls that was claiming. But there was a shot from Iwata in that second half that went wide, and that ball was past the post before Will was on the ground, right? If that's on target, that's in. Right, Wrexham, that has to be saved. Right? We're talking about, it's like, oh, he's proven over these 2 games. I'm like, well, what's he proven over the 2 games? He can come for a couple of crosses. We knew that. The kicking's not great. There was a dreadful bit of distribution in the first half as well. There's one in the second half that goes right through his hands that Chambers bails him out because as if Vicente's coming in to tap it in the back post. Right? Like, I don't mind having a conversation about goalkeepers and in the summer, do we need to upgrade? I've no problem having that conversation. I struggle to see where you're going to get rid of Kaminsky's contract, and I think that's going to be an issue with ownership. I think they're going to go, wait a minute, I'm not paying 20 grand for someone to sit on the bench. I don't think people sometimes realise how important that pressure is. And it's not whether someone's number one or not. In many ways, I don't care, right? But I'd be very, very interested. I'd love to be proven wrong, right? If you prove me wrong at Boro on Wednesday, fair enough, and I'll take it on the chin. But my issue, and I think most of our sort of consensus that aren't sure about this, is the shot stopping. He's only faced one shot that he had to actually make a decent save on. He let it in. Like, are you mad? Is that as someone that's played in goal? Is that not the job of the goalkeeper? Right? Yeah. Okay, dominate your box. Right? I have Will Jones to do that for me most of the time. Right? Like, I don't mind having a conversation, as I say, about upgrading keepers and making signings, and I think most players in that squad, there's a player that's better than them in the division. I think maybe Lloyd can make an argument, but outside of that, probably every player in that squad is not. It's replaceable by about half the division. It's why we're in 18th, right? Maybe Amari Bell if he's fit. To be fair to the lad, but I just think that when the analysis post that game has been a little wild, right? And my hope is that a lot of it is people just sort of after the game, you sort of just let stuff out and you kind of go, oh, it was this. You're not, I don't want to say people are emotional because people have the right to their opinion, right? And I don't want to come across as dismissive. I'm sure there's lots of people listening who maybe are listening on the audio and not live commenting because no one's really disagreeing with me in the comments. But it's not someone who's sort of listening on the for those that are listening on audio, I'm sure there's lots of people shaking their heads right now and saying that I'm wrong, and that's what football is, right? It's just different opinions. I can just give an opinion on it, right? But to me, I don't know. I don't see it in that way. I agree with Stuart here saying it's nice to see that he comes for crosses. That is true, right? And I've never said he doesn't come for crosses, right? And I think yesterday in many ways suited him because of that. I think it makes you look really good. But I think Wrexham's the flip of that coin, right? You have to at this level. Most games are not going to be teams whipping 95 crosses into your box, right? You have to shot some. You have to shot some shots. You have to stop some shots. And you're going to have to, in moments, make the right decision. The Championship oftentimes isn't your goal being peppered. It's not doing anything for a very long period, unless you're the goalkeeper of Sheffield Wednesday, mind. It's normally not doing a heck of a lot for a very long period of time and then being asked to make a split-second stop. So, I don't want to make it controversial because I don't, I said it all the time. I like Will, right? I just think that for a lot of people, they've made a decision before the season that was what they wanted to happen. That hasn't happened. They think that he's been given the short shrift. And as a result, when they see something that sort of confirms their original opinion, it becomes sort of confirmation bias, right? You're allowed to have that, right? You're absolutely allowed to. You're allowed to have that. You're allowed to think that. You're allowed to, have your opinion, But in mine, I'm still hesitant. I'm still hesitant, and I hope he proves me wrong on Wednesday. Genuinely hope he proves me wrong. We get peppered, and he's the reason that we get a point or whatever it is. Like genuinely, right? It makes a really cracking stop in that game, But from what I've seen, I just don't think the reflexes are there, and you're so reliant on that back three to keep shots out. And then this is true. Whoever's in the team and the number two is always talked up. Well, my counter argument. This is going to really really annoy people. I know it is. I thought Dylan Phillips at times in that championship season when things kind of fell off the wagon was really poor. Right, and we didn't upgrade it after League One. We thought it was good enough. I don't think he was great in that championship season in the second half of it. The first half of it, he was good. Second half, I think he fell off a cliff like everybody else did. And I think it really, really cost us. So I'm going to stop the controversial goalkeeping opinions there before I get shouted at next Wednesday at the Riverside by people. But anyway, that's just my opinion on it. As I say, I could be wrong. I'm asking what's going on with the Charlton Chronicles Twitter. I don't control the Twitter. I don't go on Twitter. I have no idea what's going on there. Leaving it has been great for my mental health. I recommend as many of you follow suit as want to. But yeah, look, overall, I'm very, very, very happy with the performance on Saturday. I don't think anyone was bad. I don't think anyone was poor. I think everyone kind of did their jobs. I thought the subs looked dangerous when they came on. I thought we neutralised Birmingham. Special shout out to Rankin Costa because I thought he was actually pretty good again when he came on, to be fair to him. And a lot of that involved in being defensive. There's one where he kind of goes and just takes the ball off someone's foot and runs around them when they're in our half. Takes a second on. Iwata takes an extra second on the ball. And Paul here putting 3 extension for Will, surely. I have no problem with that. I like Will. I like Will. This isn't a fun of me bashing Will Mannion. I like Will Mannion. Right? I'm never. I think maybe the reason it's whatever in me is just. I think the reason probably is I think any football fan sort of word they sort of knows that we're going to have to do open heart surgery to the squad over the next 2 or 3 seasons. And I think that there's a lot of people who aren't ready for their favourites to be sold. I'm not massively sure I'm ready for my favourites to be sold mine. But I think that there's going to be a lot of decisions made that are going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. Luton fans said this. I think Paul is joking. Says I know. I know Paul is joking. Tell me I know him well enough. I text him most days. Yeah. So football's about opinions, according to Charlie. That's right. That's all I'm trying to say. Is I just have a slightly different opinion. This is not I think you're all for those disagree with me. I'm not saying you're wrong. Right. I just have a different opinion. Will's more than capable. Not a bad lad. When we signed Brooks, is meant to be fantastic. To be fair, anyone that was in might sound a bit weird considering some of the some of the football history and some of the sort of struggles they've had. But anyone that has played in an Irish youth setup as a goalkeeper is probably a pretty darn good keeper. The number of keepers that the Ireland has produced in the last 25 years, since Shea Given, is really, really impressive. So anyone that's playing in those youth squads has some real, some real some real talent. So I think Brooks is one for the future. I think we said it's one for the future. But yeah, very much a player that I think we like to develop. I think there's probably a world in which he gets himself a move, maybe to League Two next season, and then we bring in another third. But that's a player that I think definitely has a future. Brooks, whether it's at this level or not, I think there's a real player in there. So yeah, so you can't make that squad. Was it the under 18s he made, under 16s, without having some talent, considering who you're battling against? Obviously, Kelleher and Bazunu and all the rest of it. But yeah, no, my as I say, my really big. I think Bowyer planned to bring in number one, but couldn't get one in, similar to last season. I think so too. I think that genuinely was that's kind of the point I'm making. I think that they wanted to do exactly what we've done now. So that's yeah, that's my sort of thing on the goalkeeping spot. But as I say, my worry is that I think there are a lot of players that are probably going to move on that people like. I don't think it's gonna be all of them. I think there's quite a few of them that will stay. I think there's players that will stay. People won't want to stay, and they'd rather others would go because they fit the system better or whatever it is. But I definitely would sort of prepare yourself for more sort of Apter style. No, Apter will come back. I actually don't think they're going to sell him. But there will be more sort of that sort of style of signing where we all sit there and go, no, I mean, Luton fans warned us. This is what Nathan does, right? He's pretty cutthroat when it comes to players who doesn't fit, he doesn't think suits what he's trying to do. So let's sort of leave it there. Do we know when Tom is back? I don't know when Tom is back. It was weird because he said actually in the pre-match interview that he they had to make a decision. I don't think that meant he had to have surgery or whatever it was, but it made it sound as if he wasn't going to miss the whole season or anything. I wonder if it's after the international break. As I say, whatever had happened, I actually would have kept Will in after Saturday for this game on Wednesday. I just don't think it automatically made him a number one for a game in which a save to make he did not have. So that's just my prediction. Paul saying we've had many Irish keepers over the year, of course. Obviously. Obviously, maybe our best ever, other than Mr. Bertram himself. But anyway, I'm going to leave this here. I'm hosting the Chronicles later, so come say hello. And I guess the two Pauls will be on that as well, so you can come listen to our opinions on there. We'll have a bit more of a deep dive, I guess, into specific players. But I'll be back. It's going to be Thursday. It's going to be really funky. But I'll do Thursday. I'll do a review and a preview. For that game, sort of. I'll have to figure out the time. It might be an early one, unfortunately, because I think I'm gonna have to Charlton live and the Chronicles back to back on Thursday, so it might be too early for Sam. But I will put something out so you guys know. All right, for those of you joining me on the very very long trip up to the Riverside, I'll see you up there. For those of you watching from home, enjoy the nice warmth, and hopefully we'll have a positive show again on Thursday. But I think we're going to be all right, everyone. We're going to be all right.